Hi guys, hope all of us are doing great. My name is Ernest. Today we are going to look at different types of vectors, and we said that there is a difference between vectors and scalar quantities, whereby we said vectors consist of a magnitude and direction. So basically, then therefore, we are going to see these specific characteristics are being displayed whenever we are talking about the vectors, and we have different types of vectors in so far as the concept of a magnitude and direction is concerned. And so therefore, this specific discussion is going to assist us create the difference or have a figurative difference between the two aspects of vectors that I've talked about. So we have different types of vectors depending on how, or rather this specific characteristic. And one of them is equal vectors. And these are vectors which have the same magnitude and direction, irrespective of their initial point. So therefore, vector A and B can be said to be equivalent if they have the same magnitude and direction, or rather the magnitude irrespective of their initial point. Now we're going to see later that if these vectors are going to change direction if they have the same magnitude, and therefore there's a different term that we're going to regard to these specific vectors. Now in terms of an equation, we can have a relationship that exists between equal vectors given as such. Now the second category of a vector is what we refer to as a null vector, and these are vectors whose magnitude is equivalent to 0 and the direction is not specified. So therefore, these are going to be referred to as null vectors. Now, there's a different category of vectors that we refer to as negative vectors. These are going to consist of the same magnitude but opposite in direction as given by PQ and vector PR, or rather PQ, respectively, in this specific case for the blue and red notation or illustration that I've given on the board. Now, in terms of an equation, then therefore we are going to illustrate these particular vectors together with their direction, whereby we are going to have vector PQ illustrated as such, showing that it's moving in this specific direction, and vector QP being given as a negative value, indicating that it's in the opposite direction given as such. So this constitutes a class of vectors, or a type of vectors that we refer to as negative vectors. Now, we're going to denote a vector using this specific illustration. If we have OQ and OP, then therefore we're going to have these specific letters given with that specific arrows, of course, given as such. So therefore, we're going to consider various vectors from specifically this point of origin to that specific point, and those are going to be referred to as position vectors with respect to the origin or O given as such. There's another class of vectors we refer to as parallel vectors, and these are vectors that are in the same direction, of course, and they're going to be given as parallel vectors. If you consider this one for the vectors in the same direction, they are going to be graded as vectors, and of course these other vectors are going also to travel in the same direction but opposite direction, but they are as well going to be regarded as parallel vectors. And then there is another aspect whereby we are going to look at a magnitude of a vector which consists of a vector of magnitude 1, then therefore that is going to be regarded as unit. So if we try to give a particular point that consists of these specific values for x1 and z positions for I, j, and k, having those specific values for 1 for those unit points, then therefore we can regard that one as a unit vector. Now there are some areas of different aspects that we're going to describe vectors using, especially under the topic of what we refer to as geometry, which is going to assist us describe various aspects of vectors and their other areas of application. So catch us in our other videos whereby we're going to create a link between this specific concept of types of vectors and their various areas of applications, especially in mathematics and sciences. So that is it for now, guys. Bye. God bless you. Catch us in our next video.